You believe your guilt is a sign of your moral integrity, a compass that proves you are a good person. This is the first and most lethal delusion you must discard. Alan Watts warns us that this guilt is not a virtue, but a symptom of a mind beside itself, a state of chronic paranoia where you have been trained to view your own sovereignty as a crime. You are currently living as a prisoner of the mask, holding on to an invisible leash that your family handed you in childhood. They don't even need to pull it anymore. You pull it yourself every time you feel a spark of independence. As Robert Greene notes in The 50th Law, your fear of what people think of you is the most crippling of all. It is a form of slavery that you must break. Today, we are not here to communicate better with people who profit from your submission. We are here to execute the false self that responds to their control. This is a manual for psychological rebirth, transforming your internal landscape from paranoia to metanoia, the moment you become untouchable because the you they are trying to manipulate no longer exists. Prepare yourself. The birth of the sovereign requires the cold-blooded murder of the martyr within. Chapter 1. The Trap. Engineering of the Good Child. The family unit is the primary laboratory for psychological conditioning. Before you could even formulate a sense of I, you were fitted with a mask of likability. This was not for your protection, but for the convenience of the system. Toxic families do not want sovereign individuals. They want soldiers without generals, predictable resources who will sacrifice their own strategic sovereignty to soothe the narcissistic wound of the parents. They have weaponized your natural empathy, turning it into a hook that drags you back into the kennel whenever you try to run. Alan Watts strikes at the root of this cage when he says, "Ye suffer from yourselves, none else compels, none other holds that ye live and die, and whir upon the wheel, and hug and kiss its spokes of agony." The wheel is the cycle of family expectations, and you are the one hugging the spokes because you've been told that letting go is betrayal. Joe Navarro, in Dangerous Personalities, identifies this as the hallmark of the narcissistic personality. They view you as an extension of themselves, a tool to be used, not a human to be respected. The hidden trap is the belief that you owe a debt for your existence. Every meal provided and every roof offered was part of a free lunch that actually carries a hidden cost. Remember Law 40 of power. What is offered for free is dangerous. It usually involves either a trick or a hidden obligation. The love you received was a strategic investment designed to create a lifelong bond of guilt. You were trained like a dog to be obedient, and now you are a slave to reactivity, jumping at every sigh, every tear, and every disappointed glance from people who are themselves slaves to the mask. Chapter 2. The Cold Reality, the Social Fiction of the Narcissist. We must now strip away the biological sentimentality that clouds your strategic vision. In the jungle of human nature, there are players and there are pawns. Your family has cast you as a pawn, a disposable resource meant to absorb their shadows and carry their unfulfilled dreams. When you look at your parents or siblings, you aren't seeing family in the idealistic sense. You are seeing a power structure that survives by suppressing your growth. Machiavelli warns that he who is the cause of another becoming powerful is the agent of his own destruction. By being the good child, you have made them powerful at the cost of your own soul. Alan Watts warns us that we live in a world of labels and definitions, where the family unit becomes a nave of nothingness that traps the spirit in a cycle of tire of tears. They have defined you as the reliable one or the problem child, just to manage your behavior. Robert Greene observes that the powerful look comical. They are overripe fruit waiting to fall from the tree. Your family's control is that overripe fruit. It only stays attached because you refuse to shake the tree. They use predatory patterns to keep you small, often under the guise of caring for your future. Discovering this, the mind becomes whole. The split between I and me comes to an end. The person they are yelling at, the me that feels the sting of their words, is a social fiction. It is a character in their play, not your true nature. Once you realize that their screams and manipulations are directed at a ghost, you can watch their theatrics with the cold authority of a high-level strategist. You are no longer drained batteries for their ego. You are an observer of a failing empire. They are not fighting you. They are fighting the fear of their own narcissistic wound, which is exposed the moment you stop providing them with emotional fuel. Chapter 3. The Psychological Weapon, Metanoia. This is the nuclear option in your psychological arsenal. Metanoia. As Watts defines it, this is the shift from a mind beside itself, paranoia, to a mind with itself and so free from itself. You must reach the emotional zero point, where the opinions of your family hold as much weight as the rustling of leaves. This is not numbness, it is cosmic detachment. It is the realization that you do not need their validation to complete your reality. In such feeling, seeing, and thinking, life requires no future to complete itself or explanation to justify itself. In this moment, it is finished, says Watts. Most of you are trapped because you are waiting for a future where they finally understand you, or an explanation that finally justifies your need for freedom. The sovereign knows that in this moment it is finished. You don't need to argue, because arguing is a plea for understanding. As Greene states, never explain, never complain. Every time you explain yourself to a toxic family member, you are handing them the blueprints to your fortress so they can find the weak spots. By achieving metanoia, you deploy strategic scarcity. You become a secluded truth seeker who is no longer available for their emotional dramas. Free from clutching at themselves, the hands can handle. Free from looking after themselves, the eyes can see. Watts reminds us. When you stop looking after your reputation in their eyes, you finally see them for what they are, fragile people using predatory patterns to hide their own inadequacy. You are no longer the prey. You have moved to the center of the chessboard, and you are no longer playing by their rules. Chapter 4. Shadow Integration, the 50th Law of Fearlessness. To sustain this freedom, you must wake up your inner monster. Your family has shamed your shadow because they knew that once you integrated it, you would become uncontrollable. They called your boundaries selfishness and your silence cruelty. But as Robert Greene commands in The 50th Law, everything that happens to you is a chance to practice this fearlessness. You must be willing to be the villain in their story, to be the hero in your own. Jung reminds us that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Your darkness is your ability to say no and feel absolutely zero guilt. It is your ability to look at their narcissistic wound and not feel the need to bandage it with your own life force. By integrating your shadow, you become a Shadow Sentinel, a guardian who understands that being likable is a liability in a world of predators. As Green notes, your fear of being alone is what keeps you in the cage. Break the fear, and the cage disappears. As Watts warns, the mind must be free from clutching at itself. Stop clutching at the hope of their approval. Stop clutching at the memory of who you should have been. The sovereign accepts that they will be misunderstood and misunderstand. In fact, they welcome it. To be an outcast from a toxic system is a sign of sanity. You are now a strategic mind that understands that a reputation for being cold is actually a high-wall fortress. It prevents the drained battery effect from ever happening again, ensuring your energy remains your own. Chapter 5. Rebirth through Sovereignty, the Untouchable Self. You are no longer a participant in the family drama. You have become the architect of your own fortress. You now practice Law 16 of power with ruthless efficiency. Use absence to create respect and honor. Your presence is no longer a free lunch. If they want access to your energy, they must pay the price of absolute respect for your boundaries. If they cannot pay, you withdraw into strategic scarcity. Alan Watts concludes that true liberation stems not from effort, but from understanding the illusion of the self. The guilty child was an illusion, a costume you were forced to wear. You have stripped it off. You are now the sovereign, a being that operates with cold authority. You see through their predatory patterns like a profiler observing a suspect. You are a player on a chessboard where they are still trying to move pieces that you have already taken off the board. You are no longer the fenced architect of their happiness. You are the architect of your own empire. Free from looking after themselves, the eyes can see. Free from trying to understand itself, thought can think. You can finally see the world as it is, not as you were told it was. You are no longer a slave to reactivity because there is no one left inside you to react. You have moved from a strategic mind trapped by emotion to strategic sovereignty. The invisible strings of family control have been incinerated in the fire of your own awakening. You are the one who moves. You are the one who decides. You are the sovereign. The conclusion. The transmission is complete. The good child has been strategically executed, and the sovereign has ascended the throne. You have heard the warning of Alan Watts and realized that your guilt was the only thing keeping the prison doors locked. You have integrated your shadow, weaponized your identity, and reclaimed the life force that was being siphoned by a system that never truly saw you. You are now part of the secluded truth seekers, the circle of minds that refuse to be controlled by blood, guilt, or tradition. If you have the courage to inhabit this new identity and walk the path of strategic sovereignty, then you have found your home. Subscribe now to join the inner circle and continue your training in the language of power. Do not let the system pull you back into the kennel. Leave a comment below with the declaration, "I am the sovereign." By typing it, you anchor this new reality in your conscious mind. Remember, the world wants you to stay in the whirl of the wheel, but the sovereign knows that in this moment it is already finished.